Hello everyone, welcome to the another episode of TACOS where we'll be talking. This talks out about honoring the people for their contribution and building and nurturing community that support open source technology and cybersecurity for the safer world. Today we have Bhuvana Meenakshi with us. Bhuvana is the founder of Women in Tech Collectives India, and she's a Socio Tech researcher and AR, VR, and multidimensional space enthusiast. Bhuvana is also an open source enthusiast and recognizes Mozilla Fest as a Wrangler and a mentor. And she is also part of Mozilla Representative, which is a part of Mozilla Reps program. She has also contributed towards the Wikimedia project and has contributed a research work on bridging the gender gap in Indian language in Wikipedia communities. Bhuwana strongly believes that women must be an integrated part of technology and has been partnered with organizations that mainly focus on women empowerment. She has founded a self-help women community called India, which is a small community led by the women tech enthusiasts from the small rural region in South India. The community helps addressing the needs of empowerment for women, supporting them in the career in varied of technology fields. She is also Women Techmakers Ambassador, which is the initiative by the Google to help women in tech global to collaborate and represent their works. Bhuvan also worked with the Indian Defense Research and Development Team for a project related to Indian Navy satellite system. With while she was not engaged with comedy, she likes to perform traditional dance and play chess. She is a state level awarded in Bharatanatyam and chess. Also, a grade certificate holder in Kathak too. So let's welcome, I would say, superwoman Bhuvana to Tacos.
Thanks a lot. I'm greatly humbled by this gesture, and also thanks for having me here. And in fact, I would always be reminded of our friendly bond, and of course, like you will always remain as my baya. As I fondly call you in the community meetups and stuff. So this is going to be like more of like Baya and a Ben, talk, a conversation of
Right.
like an update of about our own lives as well.
Exactly, exactly. And to be very honest, while I was reading, while I was reading about your bio, I was so much proud to be very honest because I know you from so long, and I've seen where I've seen you as an attendee in most fest, and from attendee to being in wrangler and mentor to that complete space, it's amazing. So kudos to you. Very happy that I was part of somewhere in that community life, I would say, because that's something dots which connected each and everyone, and I think that is the best part of being part of community. I would say that.
Exactly, I would say it is, because the life that started as just being part of like observing such communities to now being potential to help someone who's also coming as part of this particular community, right? So and you see from where it comes, right? So we've had great mentors, like especially like the set of people that we met, like you and the others, are the source of like the strong roots of the foundation that has built in that whole structure to form as a community to where we are today. And that's really helped, and glad that we are able to take it forward as well. So yeah.
I think that is the best part of being part that whatever you learn, you share with the people, and when you share, if there is sake when people with you, and then by sharing the knowledge and they achieve something in their life, I
Yeah.
think that is something meant to them. And that's happiness, like the moment that I am enjoying right now is nobody is going to steal it from me because that is
True.
something we created, contributed, and we can see as a is the, I think you can say, actual result which can help in your personal and professional life both ways, I would say that, right?
Totally.
And
It's all about a team and great people of like same minded, and you also get to observe, share, and learn as well. So it's all happening in the same place. So
exactly,
uh,
exactly.
yeah.
But while I was reading, I just stumbled upon the initiative that they took, women in tech collectives. So I am very curious because to be very honest, I've not heard it, but while I was while I was checking it into the kind of specifically in
Yeah.
the region where there is no such resources, I would say that, right? And from that being part of that area or a region, and coming so far, so I would like to know, how did you start, about, like, I want to start about women in tech collectives and what's the motivation point of yours.
Sure, sure. So, this Women in Tech Collectives India is like a community, like a self-help tech community for women, and it's just not meant for those who identify as women, but also for those who basically support the ideology of women empowerment and inclusion in technology. So, while we kind of like hitting into the second wave of COVID in the country. So there were a lot of recessions in point of like technology, in terms of like work and all of that. And there's a specific community, there's a specific round of people who were mostly like women, who were affected by this effect of the COVID, and the families who were also surviving out of their income, and just themselves, right? So, and what's the common point among these women was that they were all good in tech. They were also like engaging themselves in some or the other kind of like a digital activity around, or like they had some kind of basic basic knowledge around, like at least to access a mobile phone or web page, or not like to the extreme of like development, but then also to the roots of like understanding and engaging digital interfaces and stuff. So we were all connected initially by different regional open source communities, let be with Mozilla or Wikimedia like movements. And what did we want to I mean, the women from these community, like they approached a group of like mentors, and also this was like circulating around different groups. And what I found was like to see somewhere to help these women. And that's how like I wanted to take this initiative to get started with, like to bring into action something that can really help them, right? So that's how we identified ourselves as Women in Tech Collectives. We started this as a small movement that can just not help the folks who are in like expertise into tech and things like that, but should also have a potential way to bring in new developers, women who are more in need of like understanding, or like people who also have the work gap because of various reasons and various social barriers and stuff, but also want to reskill themselves in different areas of technology. So that's where we formed the group and we labeled ourselves, and then we started to approach out for help. So that's the point where I was able to help, exactly where I could reach to global technology forums. I could present myself at MozFest and similar platforms and tell people, hey, we're starting some kind of this initiative, and it's very particularly something that could help our regional women who are trying to come out of the barriers, or like trying to seek help, especially in these trying times. And definitely people who came forward at that point were really the people who had that best heart, or like that kind heart, I would say, because we never had kind of like a very very big background on doing things, or like bigger portfolio. But then that was like the time where people trusted us, and people trusted on the works that we would do. And yeah, and that's how it started to build. And now like we now, like with the help of various partner organizations and collaborations, we are able to now in a way help these women in reskilling, or like helping them in learning a particular technology, or to even give them a basic digital infrastructure for them to develop any kind of applications, or like any other services. And in the same time, we also have mentors and other expertise, knowledge of people who give their services for different organizations based on their skills and requirements. Yeah. So.
I was feeling so much amazed, to be very honest, and kudos the kind of work that you are doing it. And I think the most important part which I've seen is the consistency which I can see over here, right? Like continuously delivering, and the people who don't know, when you deliver this kind of things, you have to give a lot of your time as well, right? Because you have to connect a lot of people into when you even go and go to any partner or a mentor, you have to explain them so many things like, hey, right,
Yeah.
like why you are doing this, and sometimes you may face that, yeah, you're wasting your time, right? There are so many people are doing it. What new are doing it. So so whenever you start something, irrespective of any initiative you take, right, in the beginning, people face the challenges, right? And when they face the challenge, I think most of them will lose because this kind of hurdles that they are getting it. And I'm sure you might have got so many hurdles, while taking these initiatives. So how did you, tackle those initiatives and how hurdles out in specific, so that people who wanted to take an initiative and something is stopping them by, and they're demotivated, right? So how? Because I've seen you, consistently delivering it, and that's require a lot of patience, time management, because this is something you are doing as a non, like I would say, a community work, and you are also full time working. You are running your own organization, lot of other things that you're doing it. So that you face while you are, or like, what is the state of mind at the time?
Yeah, well, that's. I mean, definitely there are various other challenges that we have faced. Like, it's just not with the time and management, but it's definitely a lot of things that goes around. Um, there's a plethora of things that I can scenarios that I can keep on explaining how we had to tackle and stuff. But then what comes on top of my mind is um, is 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 that the fruits of this is not like very early fruit that will ripe out of this at all. Let it be in terms of like non-profit business, or let it be even in terms of like a profit business. It's like the goal that needs to be attained is all that needs to come flash in front of your eyes every time, rather than the process that we need to go through it, right? So yes, it has happened a lot of times that to make people understand what we're doing, to give those initially I was literally like really afraid to take up the like to promise the women here that they'll be able to revive their lives, or like to get back to their states of like what they want, or like to promise a kind of like a particular job or a project was definitely a challenge for me initially. And what I did was like kept trying for the best. Like the least I could do is like to let know people, to let know folks around that we're doing this, and if they would be interested to support. And if it's not that we want to do, like we want to um it's not that we want to do something just for the sake of um, y- you know like raising a fund or something like that. But then it's more of like something that's going to be in place for changing the life of a woman. So that's potentially, if someone here that they're able to come out of their social barrier, or if they're able to come out of that particular sense of like maybe technology is not for me. So for those kind of people, they're able to come out, explore this whole new world, and also their families accept them as yes, the women at their home can also code, can also be in front of computer, can do something potentially, and can add value to the family. So that's a kind of the change that I've been visualizing for. And also I come from such background as well. So I got my access to the computer very very late. And the first time I did a piece of coding or anything was like through like how I came across Mozilla community in my later college days and things like that. So there are such women here who like who are trying to come out of their homes, or like who are trying to come out of their own bubble of challenges. So that's exactly what I want to reach out to them. And also in turn the community wants to support such people. And um and yeah, I mean, there are on and off things that keeps happening, but then we just need to get through it. And of course, a lot of what I've personally gone through is a lot of like mental challenge that that puts you into, especially while you go through a lot of strenuous process, day and night, talks because of different time zones and things like that, and mediating the whole of work with balancing my own life and the work stuff. So it's been a kind of thing, but then once like we just lifted off with like 2 3 projects, and we got the whole confidence that we can do this as well. So that's the time. And also I saw potential changes going around my own place, and that's a kind of like the vibration and the positivity that I want to live in as well, and witness the same, right? So that's I mean, it's like sweet challenges, I would say, that we've converted it into.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very sweet, but yeah, you make it very sweet because and that's how it should be. So I think the first thing I want to say that the one thing everyone should have is the never give up attitude. Because if you give up, way, because you are the person who decide, right, whether you want to quit or you want to continue.
Yeah.
That leads to the second thing is identifying the problem is not the important part. I see people saying, okay, this is the problem, this is the problem. But what you do after identify those problem and that is also not the stop point. After that, when you keep on doing it, right, consistency is, as I said, is one of the most important part. And of course, you may face the challenges, you may face the other thing, but ultimately, let's say if you thought like I wanted to reach out to 100 people, but out of 100 people, if one people get benefited out of it and that change their life, I think that no one, as I said, that when you hear their story, that how you change, or how you inspired them, or how you change their life, and when you hear the stories touch your heart, and that feeling is amazing. And I think that is, I think, and I lived those moments so many times in my life, and I cherish that all the time, and that is the motivation for me, that I'm still very active in the community, and I love what I'm doing. And same goes for you, because while you speaking, you continually smile, and you are sharing those stories, like even you're sharing these hurdles, that how you faced it. But that is the most important part. That leads me to me that you mentioned that you started your contribution to Mozilla, like in one of the most active open source community. So first, I wanted to know that how did you, because I know you are one of the most active member in the open source community. There are a lot of open source communities running, right? There's a Wikipedia, Mozilla, and a lot of other communities like Google. There's also running the Women Techmakers and Google Developers Group and so many other areas, right? So how did you started your open source journey? When, as you mentioned, you started after passing to your graduate, like after college, right? So wanted to know like how, what's the first moment or first point you maybe attend or speak about it?
Yes, definitely. That would be great. I mean, that's a very interesting. It's a pivotal moment in my life, I would say. Um, so it. I mean, it actually started while I was in the college. So I when I was in 2015 in my college, where I was in my second year of my bachelor's in computer science and engineering. So that's a time where Mozilla was letting know people about its Firefox Student Ambassador program. So I mean, there were bunch of programs, as you said, like others, like there's a Google program, Wikimedia, and everything there. But then the regional aspect, as long as I understood from that point of moment as a student, was like something about this Firefox Student Ambassador program. And of course I knew about the Firefox browser and things like that, and so was curious to know about the program and happened to apply for it and got selected for the same. So I mean, I used to like, there used to be like small kind of like campaign activities and things that used to happen while I was in college, and I used to do it also to the nearby institutions. This is more like open source gatherings, meetups, and things like that. So that I think now the Firefox Student Ambassador program doesn't exist anymore, and it's become as a campus club. Mozilla campus clubs, and different universities have one campus club at least in their campuses now. So in turn, I didn't, but then as I was doing this ambassadorship program, I didn't find a lot of much connect with the regional community. So there's this community called Mozilla Tamil Nadu, which I came to know in the later stage. And then I wanted more like kind of like understanding of how Mozilla functions and how its programs work and things like that. And that's how in a later phase I came to know about like different pioneers inside the community. And also then it largely actually extended out to the Mozilla India, right? So so that's how, like, I came to know how as a community Mozilla is panned out across India, across my region and other places. So and later to which I was more interested into VR, AR gaming and things like that. So that's where I found about web VR, and A-Frame at that point was also part of Mozilla. So I started more contribute in that particular stream. And like it's like in the very nascent stages where web VR was getting developed, and also a bit on web AR and things like that. So started to give a lot of talks and campaigns on this particular framework around, and helped in like more like sharing more about this to others, and also in turn doing a lot of collaborative projects with them on open source and things like that. So that's in a way it started. And then there's this bigger program called Mozilla Reps, where while you've like, because of course that everyone who's a volunteer here needs to be recognized as, like, their actions needs to be recognized, or like what they do the world needs to know as well. So that's where I found how Mozilla Reps work, and enrolled into that. And yeah, it's been quite a good journey so far. And I now still continue with the Mozilla community. And that's exactly where I was like trying to more understand about how open internet works, and how different tech policies work, and how this open knowledge movements are being formed into a larger scale. So then the global forum of MozFest came into place. So and I got this first time, like, I got the first time of opportunity to fly away from India. And that MozFest made it happen. So it was like very very wonderful experience with MozFest. And I never knew that I'd be able to communicate with a lot of people outside, or like or like even try to understand of various terms, or like like different nuances and things like that. But then MozFest was the place where I understood, okay, this is how, like, things exist in the world. Like, there are a lot of things that exist in the world. It's not just what I was thinking as like a small city, or like in my small home. But things do exist, right? So yeah, that made it happen. And I was so attached to the MozFest community that I'm still continuing. Even the 2023 I'll be continuing as a MozFest Wrangler mentor. So yeah, look forward to see a lot of more. Now that it has come to a way that I'm able to help people across from my region to at least bring over some proposals in their presentations at MozFest now. So that's kind of like a proud moment I'll also hold.
I think I am also going to reach out to you so that okay, you help me with my presentations too. I I I,
Definitely,
I
anything.
could actually see, because I started my journey from Firefox Student Ambassador to Campus Club, then being part of this Campus Advisory Committee. But yeah, I just wanted to let people know that the also Campus Club program is not in action anymore right now.
Okay.
Really they are focusing on the their community portal and the regional activities, because due to the COVID, there is no such activities happening. But maybe slowly they are starting it. And of course most fest is one of the most amazing experience, but I didn't know that it was the first time that you came out in that world, because I've seen, there are a lot of Indian people we have over there. We had a lot of fun. We work together, we build our own the room that we are going to present our session. So it was whole amazing experience, lot of stories, lot of food as well, because I still remember a lot of vegetarians are there. I'm among them who are struggling with the food options, and we looking after the who got the food right from the India. And
Exactly.
so that was the moment that, we share our ideas, initiatives. I still remember in the most first in my session, I was little bit stuck. So some of the other people who actually helped me out, how we can curate our session, right? So that was the best part, I would say that. And but really wanted to know, because after most first, even I got an opportunity two times where they asked me to be a wrangler, but due to continuous, because we need to commit a lot of time then, because if you are
Yes.
doing it, you need to do full hearted, give your 1,000%, not just 100%. So at that time I was not able to give that time, because I think I attended two or three times almost first, as far as I remember, but never they asked me to do that, but somehow I didn't. But maybe in the future for sure, because most wise is totally different experience from the other technical conferences, right? So I think everyone should definitely, if people who are listening to this one, check out the Most Fest 2023. And if you have any questions over here, you can reach out to her on Twitter, LinkedIn, and she will definitely help you out. But wanted
That'll
to
be
know,
great.
like, when you become a wrangler, right? Being an attendant to wrangler, what was your experience? And being a wrangler, what are the things that which also help, like, the other as well, like, you'll become curious, become more curative, and you, because now you're reading the proposal, you are also one of them who are help to select those who are going to present. So what's the mindset, while reviewing these papers? So what are the things that that also add a lot of you?
Yeah, well, it's totally like two different responsibilities. Because it's as a facilitator for the first time. I think that's the first time I tried to go understand, observe how the whole event works and things like that. But never happened to understand what happened in the background. But I knew that it was like a big thing that is going on behind. But I never risked myself to understand, like to be part of the background works. So as soon as it became the Wrangler, so the first, I mean, I was very passionate to know about it as well, because how things work globally, especially like while you have to look at various lens of where you're coming like it's like different culture, different people, and internet is something that brings us all together. And but then again, there is vast differences that you can see amidst that whole crowd. So wearing the Wrangler hat, it was like kind of like huge round of responsibility, especially like with curating sessions is one of the small task, I would say. But yeah, like we work together, like we do a lot of sessions within our Wrangler teams, to understand the rubrics, to understand how we need to curate, to understand, because everyone from again different backgrounds and things like that. So we have to get that ideology of which session can add value to the space. So we select different spaces, so at least like 6 to 7 spaces in a year come up, and then we try to own a space. So it is on us, like everyone has that honest of like how the space is going to be built, how the space, what's the focus of the space, how the space is going to have its add its value to the MOSFest, things like that. So we look at various aspects on how a particular space needs to be represented. And relatively we find we it's a kind of like a process, like where we try to we definitely have like a very heavy heart when we reject a lot of proposals, but then we only have like a few slots that we can fill in. So But we know that these kind of like the opportunities that we give for people to represent at MOSFest is something that brings in a whole lot of like another side of a community, or like people who have kind of challenges or like ideas to present but want to take a community with them. So those are the kind of like people we look for at the MOSFest. And aside of this curation work, I've personally learned a lot of like handling things with different people, basically when in terms of time, and also like working as a whole global team, and also on different skills, like like let it be in communications, or let it be in terms of even handling a portal that's like to use for curating or like managing other things. So it's like Mozilla comes up with different new technologies that we need to use, or like different tools that we need to use for our events. And especially while we've been doing a virtual part of the MOSFest, we had different interfaces to connect with the actual event and things like that. So those are like very interesting to experiment with and to understand. And at some points, and they're all like also open source and tools of those kinds. So I too use them a bit of those techniques for my community as well, while we host virtual events and things like that. So a lot of things to learn from that. Especially the Wrangler community has a special vibe to and also it at the end of the day you feel that satisfaction of being part of the event um, overall. So that's the thing that keeps me very. And a lot of them had even asked me like how do you get that energy and time to this is my fifth Moss Fest, to be honest. So how do people are like, how do you get that energy and to be there, because it does involve a lot of your time, and as you said, you need to be dedicated to it while you do it. So yeah, I mean, it's like my home, so it's like my home ground now, and a lot of people, a lot of friends now, and a lot of familiar faces. And now that this time of gap, I find it like I'm away from my home and I wait for the time that again I get back into those Wrangler calls and stuff. So it's become part of life.
Of course. As I said, most of is my one of the most amazing experience that I had. But yeah, I didn't get that much of time to, let's say, when they asked me to being part of Wranglers. But of course, as you said, if you do that, if you do dedicatedly, I know that I was not able to give the 100% time, so better you should not do it. So that also gives you that you need to decide what you need to do, right? If you whether you do it, but yeah, complete it, or else don't do it.
Yeah,
And the second most important part, when you do this, that also improve your leadership quality as well. It does the skills as well, because you are part of a program where you also build the new leaders. You bring the new leaders into the community or into the program. You motivate them. As you said, heavily hearted that you rejected a couple of proposals as well. But you also tell them that, hey, these are the things which is you need to improve. That is, you don't say that it is wrong, but you can, instead of that you can say, because I still remember earlier when I asked, I simply, okay, no, you, this is not wrong, this is wrong, this is not you to do. So I got to know there is another way to say that hey, this is the way you can improve, and this is
exactly.
actually not actually meeting with the our goals for this year of the the fest, because every year they have a different theme. So this year is not actually, because I still remember first year I got two proposal accepted. Second year, because I've seen repeating the same proposal again and again, right? So
Yeah,
so maybe that time is not going to accept, because maybe that's not match or not aligned with their goal or the theme that so. And
exactly.
while you explain this, there's also a lot of time consumed, because you have to write them an email or on the GitHub issue, or maybe on Twitter they ping you, or maybe on a, if you know them personally, they might you reach out on WhatsApp or an email, or directly call you, hey, what happened to my proposal, huh? But, so
Yeah.
to tackling everything, that also help you to build your leadership skills as well. and also how you can answer it to them,
Yeah.
because that
Yeah.
I would say the diverseness comes with this kind of experience. So I that's the reason I said, if
Totally.
no one has experience, you should definitely experience. Try to explore most fest, just check out everything, apply for it, whether irrespective whether you select or reject. But even when you start applying it, you write it. So you're doing your efforts to write some proposal. So that brings you some kind of a learning. You got to know a couple of more things which you are not expert yet. So by doing this kind of activity, that makes you understand or makes you be part of it. Uh,
Exactly,
I,
exactly.
yes,
And I mean, it's not just that, especially if you're first time to MOSFest, I wouldn't say like to aim for Wrangler and things like that, but just try to participate or like facilitate sessions in first. And there are too many things to actually look at. So and also you're going to build the space together. So it doesn't make much of difference at that point when while you're Wrangler or facilitator or just a participant. So you know this is like best thing to start with, especially like if you are interested in open internet access and open source and stuff. Yeah.
of course. And I with that actually I just recall one of the Mozilla's manifesto, that internet should be equal and accessible resource, and everyone should access it. And
Exactly.
actually that line actually made me to so I still love that mission, and that is the reason actually I'm here. And I think one of the best access people should definitely do that. But you mentioned about your Wikimedia stuff as well, right? So
Yeah.
and, and there's no doubt about how much enthusiasm about the kind of work that you're doing it. But what are the projects that you have done in Wikimedia? I've seen a couple of listed over there, but if you can
Yeah.
explain any one over here.
Yeah, sure. So majorly, I started with exploring on Wikimedia projects as a researcher. So this is a particular research I did with the Access to Knowledge program, which is part of CIS in India, and that's the point where I try to understand what's like a gender gap exists in technology. So especially when it was concerned with the Indian communities, and especially while you're working in an open source knowledge movement or like open forums, how is that there's a category of participation or understanding of or like gathering around knowledge or even in terms of finding safe space and things like that, right? So how does that affect a community, and how to bridge those gender gaps is a part of the research work I did. And there were like astonishing observations that came out of that particular research, as well. Probably I can share the link, you can add it to the box description as well so later. So that gives like detailed observations of like how various gaps in terms of gender that exist in Indian, that's like very specific to the Indian Wikimedia communities. But on a larger scale, while I did this study, I try to also understand how it also similarly resonates in other forums. So there are women specific groups for let's say with GDG, or there's this I mean, Golang also has its own community, the Women Techmakers, and like there are many, the Pi ladies and things like that. So a lot of women-specific groups exist, but where do they all converge at the end? Like, are they all? I mean, are they still like remain as a specific women group, or like, and how those groups are again inclusive and diverse is one question, and the other way around is like how do they converge into like the larger forum. So there is always like a larger forum, and subsequent to that larger forum is where the smaller different groups exist. So how they in turn contribute to the larger forum, and is does the larger forum support a lot of women, or other non-binary or other groups, right? So in general, how diversity and inclusion works is what was my study around. And that exactly hit me to the point of even starting this women in tech collectives, right? So There's a lot of the challenges and the grassroots level challenges that goes in from, like, accessing one mobile phone at home for a woman, where especially like it has to be handled by a father or a husband,
Right.
primarily, right? So that's the kind of like the way that I got um, more like exposed to the Wikimedia community and stuff. And apart from that, there are other projects like Wikimedia Commons, and also there's totally other media wiki and other parts where you can also do a bit of scripting works, user scripting works and stuff into the Wikimedia. The more interesting parts that I'm interested in and exploring as well is into the accessibility point of Wikimedia. So
Mm.
trying to understand what are the different accessibility features that's available for readers in Wikimedia, or even if like someone who wants to contribute to Wikimedia, how does accessibility as a whole
Right.
functions, and how does it also align with A11Y, um, and also, I mean, we in the recent hackathon with the Indian Wikimedia community, what we tried to figure out was like, I was more trying to understand how to attach a dyslexic tool into the wiki portal, like, for you know readers who are dyslexic or like neurodivergent. How can they read a particular article in a particular font that can enable them to read, right? And also trying to understand, or like, to create a kind of like a toolkit that makes accessibility a prominent feature in Wikimedia, right? So it's a kind of thing.
I think there are so many things that it's sounds like a question now. But I think the best part is like you found out the things that you like to contribute. That is your area, and you found out the problem and what kind of being part of those areas and that can help the problem or the problem that you observe or problem that you face as well. With that synergies or with that communication, with that contribution, actually solve that. So I think people should really need to do that. Like first, you need to find out which area you like to like you are interested in, right? And according to that you can find out a group, and based on that one you can start contributing. Or if you see like, hey, something I want to initiate, I want to fix something, you need to do the same thing again. So ultimately it's because you need a group of people, right, to work with them, to have a network with them, and to if you want to really want to achieve something, I think there are like-minded people, right? As you said that, rightly said that, right? uh, uh, but what makes me more curious is like you have a very strong technical background, right?
Okay.
And you are also performing as an artist, as I see, Bharatanatyam, Kathak. So
Yeah.
so the two things. First of all, how do you people ask me a lot the question, like how do you manage your like the people ask me, you traveled a lot, you speak in the different conferences, like how you manage your full-time job and things like that. So I wanted to ask this questions to you. How do you manage this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, of course, like a lot of people ask me how I juggle between my work in first place, but yeah, this is an extra adding point to it. So, yeah, I mean, it's also a time where while this, I mean, I would say, while you are professionally oriented into something more like that's keeps you stationary to a particular place and things like that, where you need kind of like a physical activity to keep you engaged, and that gives you kind of like a fresh nuance to it. So I mean, I'm basically trained as a Bharatanatyam dancer, like, since I was in the age of 5. So and it's kind of like my passion that drew me up, and despite of like it's been a while from there, despite I have my exams, or despite I have anything, dance also keeps going on in my life. And that's a way I try to express my emotions, and also went out as well. So often I mean, if I'm not pursuing my dance, that's like kind of like, I'm not in my normal mood or something like that. So it's a kind of that activity, or more than an activity, it's an art that's very close to me. And also recently I was like more interested into Hindustani music and things like that. So and I wanted to learn tradition, or like a culture from northern part of the country as well. So that's where I got influenced by Kathak. And I take I mean now I'm actually learning Kathak virtually. So in a way, I think COVID and everything had made it possible for me to also learn an additional art, and doing some grade certificates as well with the as like it's more like, if you identify what you want to do as a passion, it's like the work is also your passion, and also another kind of an activity that's like totally different from your work. And they need to go in parallel, and at no point, they would clash, or like, you may feel overdoing any of these at any point. And recently what we did for MOSFest was, something that we tried to express. I was more curious to, at some point, align dance and technology as well. So that's exactly where, we did a small sequence in Bharatanatyam to express our, especially to represent our culture and tradition in first place. And in second place is to express, how digital evolution has happened through various expressions, like through just there's a music score that goes in the background, and we were just expressing out of our hand gestures, and other things aligned to Bharatanatyam.
Facial
uh,
expression as well.
Facial expressions, and like, yeah, like exactly like the complete Bharatanatyam version of how digital evolution evolved from, like telephones, radios, and things like that, to today's smartphones and laptops and things like that. So that's something that we tried to do. And yeah, I'm more curious to take this more globally, where people can align technology and this art. And recently my teacher in Kathak has also developed a software tool to actually put those, we call them as bowls, in Kathak. So it's like, those are basically the syllables that they attach tune to it and perform for that. So there wasn't a proper tool for that until then. And then my teacher had done kind of like research towards it, and she's put them into a software tool, which is like really lovely. So yes, at some point, performing arts and technology and everything is like a wonderful blend to, something that, as together as a country, as to promote these traditional art forms. Different initiatives and campaigns needs to be done as well.
I think more power to you if you, because love to see that this Indian traditions, music, and because we
Yeah.
have we are one of the most diverse country in the world, and I don't think like
Yes.
anyone can touch that bar. And with technology, and if doing this kind of things, I think that's really make everyone, like like the whole community proud that we are bringing that culture. Because we what we seen in when we mostly when I attended the conference, I've seen a Western culture a lot, right? But coming to
Yep.
that sector where we see this traditional culture as well, it is going to be amazing for sure. And I think this kind of activity is also much needed. Why? Because we are so much into our work, we lot of do other activities as well. And then this kind of a thing which makes you refresh, because as you love a dance, even I love a dance, but I don't do Kathak and all, because I don't think that is my cup, because it's very hard. But yeah, I do because in my college, because since in my home this kind of activity is not so much promoted, right? They wanted me to focus on my study only. But somewhere while after doing so, I was doing this as a passion, and I still do that. I still perform in the couple don't know about it. After this podcast, the people may know. And so and as you said, because I know why I know about the facial expression, because when you do Bollywood dance, you should know the facial expression. I've seen people who do the Bharatanatyam, because that's so tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so tough because that should go with your and your facial expression says everything. The story that you are here to convey,
Exactly.
and that
Exactly.
is in form of the dance form is so tough. But yeah, it looks so stunning when you see that performance, right? But people don't know
Exactly.
like how much time, and your teacher might be shout you so many times. Yeah, yeah, you are not doing correctly. Whatever, the hand movement is not good. Your expression is not good. So
Yeah.
I get it, but yeah, I really happy to hear that you're doing this kind of activities, and
Thank you.
hopefully, if I'm able to most fest in any of year, we will do performance together on Indian
Sure.
stage.
That
I'll
would be
I'll
wonderful.
for sure we'll rock the stage.
Definitely. That would be
But
great. Yeah.
so so tell me one thing. If I ask like this question to all my guests, that if you are not like if you are not a technical profession, what if you go back to in life, go back in the past, what you would be? So I'm not going to ask these questions to you. I just wanted to ask that, did you ever feel that you wanted to become a full time performing artist? Have you occurred that?
Uh, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would say if given the opportunity, yes. If given the opportunity and time and other things could be managed as part of my life, then definitely with no wonder I would, take uh, dance and teaching dance as my profession itself.
You
And
should you
also,
should
there's a whole round of like other stuff like research and things that goes with the dance itself, where you have to dedicate a lot of time. I regret that I couldn't definitely like at this point couldn't dedicate a lot of time, but still trying to keep up for the regular classes, and some great certificate programs and things like that. But then definitely it's like, if that the other other parts of the streams of the lives are sorted, then that I could definitely, I would definitely not think of an alternate and bring that as like major streamline to my life.
now you should put your name like this, Bhuvana Meenakshi, and on the bracket techno artist.
Definitely, that's a
It,
perfect name.
that's perfect, because technical field for artists, so that makes you are a technical person, but you are a artist as well, who are sharing the story in the form of technology, I would say, or by using technology, you can say that. So I
Yeah,
think you should start doing that, and you should give me the credit of by with this name.
definitely that's something then bigger, I think the biggest dream of all.
Yeah, of course, and I'm sure that if you can definitely gonna achieve, and I as I said, more power to you. That what are the things, and if I could be help in any time in any ways, you can definitely feel free to tell me.
Sure.
Um, but based on your experience, like if you want to give any three advice to any the people who wanted to start contributing to the community, specifically in women tech areas, right? So, what are the three advice that you can give it to them?
Okay, well, the first thing is, identify what interests you. So it doesn't come way around like, this is what I like, and I try to experiment something, and then this is what I like. We don't settle at that point, like, this is what my passion is, because I have done through a lot of trials in my life. So it does take a while, but then once you settle down that this is what it interests you, then nothing big than that. So try to identify what is your passion. That is what can keep you driving for a long run, like especially as you told earlier, like those challenges or whatever had had come through. At the end of the day, it's my passion. So i I want to keep going towards it. So that's a drive that you'll move along with. And the other thing is about like you know development of a particular skill that needs to happen over the time. So you shouldn't settle down with I know particular, because of course, like, evolution of technology keeps growing on, but to adapt to the changes, to adapt to that flexibility is something, I know that a lot of people working on different technologies, like, if that their the foundations are strong, they're able to adapt into different streams, right? So that's a kind of like the flexibility that you need to hold in hand as well. And third thing, very specific to women who are like evolving into communities and things like that. I would just say that um, you know uh, find the people who can actually mentor you, guide you, um, or like, who have the same kind of wavelengths to get things. Or because sometimes it's not that only you are facing a particular challenge. There's like other people who are also on the same boat. So try to collaborate, network. It's not that hard unless we get started. And I advise the same for any kind of like women-led businesses or women-led communities. Give that opportunity for women to connect, to um, basically understand the surface level challenges that exist. And while you're also part of such a society or like such a background, it's more easier to understand what the women go through, and and find solutions accordingly. And just not lay around with the stigma and stereotypes. And there are things that we can potentially do, and of course the society and the country will accept us for what we are, and will encourage our progress. So yeah, you just need to come out of the bubble. I would say.
But of course, and all it's
Yeah.
matter you need to all you need to do is just do it anyways, and that is what most important. So, but if let's say if anyone interested, or if anyone need any help, or let's say if any organization wants to do collaborate with you or helping the community that you be part of or you are running it, so how they can reach out to you?
Well, it's going to be very simple. People can just reach out to my email ID, which is Bhuvana Meenakshi @gmail.com, which probably you can add to the description as well.
Yes, and
And also, I'm available on Twitter and LinkedIn. Either ways, I'm like open to connect on any kind of digital forums. And of course, that I'm happy to initiate or like collaborate new kind of partnerships, or any, and also like any kind of like inputs that anyone wants to give, advice on how we can kind of like take this further and things like that. That's more welcome. Yeah, and also we've recently ventured into something called something with merchandise, where we're connecting a lot of weavers and product people who do the raw materials for different merchandise that's for conferences, that's produced for conferences stuff. And these are like people who come from the families of the women, of women in tech collectives. So that they do it in a very small scale levels in their own small communities, in the self-help groups in their own villages. So we're finding also ways to take this into different, if you're hosting a conference or event, we would love to do it with that local and traditional touch. So yeah.
I think I can even I'm definitely going to look out and how I can help. And please, how they can order all the details, something my description as
Sure.
well. And once we release
Sure.
this one, we'll definitely promote them for sure. Where a lot of conferences are happening, and what could be the advantage of being part of it and like, help each other, and that definitely. And really glad that you shared that. It's really nice. And yeah, thank
Yeah,
you for that
thank you,
one.
thanks a lot.
Last
Yeah.
is what I started is let's thanks the people who help us, or let's say who wanted, because we didn't get that much of time to even thank them of their work. So since you started your community participant with Mozilla Tamil Nadu, so let's thanks each and everyone from Mozilla Tamil Nadu that help, because somewhere is connected, everyone's right. So you can
Yeah.
start taking the names, and we can thank them, so that it,
Yeah.
it is connected, and that way they will feel okay. Now I wanted to also come. I wanted to share my stories as well, because I think everyone
Yeah.
has that story. Everyone has the story, and everyone, and I think that should come out and let people know, like what kind of a hard work or what kind of passion they had, because
Yeah.
people don't see the behind. Like, let's say when I travel, people don't see the kind of work that I do, right? While I was even traveling, I
Yeah.
was continuously working. I remember I used to sleep in the airports. I do my 8 hour shift in from the airports or the cafe shops. So that kind of dedication and so many things is required. And the motto is for this podcast,
Yes.
bring those stories. So yes, can
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you had told, I would have prepared a long way list of
why
people to
no
people
can
to.
start with Vishwa Prasad, right?
Yeah, yeah, yes, definitely. He's the person, I would say, like, he's also from the same city where I am. So definitely it's like biggest inspiration to start with. I mean, the journey of understanding how the ecosystem of Mozilla Tamil Nadu exists. And of course, this Gautam Anna and Vignesh Anna and Karthikeyan Anna, also Khalil. Khalil Anna is also like who these are all like the people who built the foundation for
Foundation, yes.
Mozilla,
Yes.
especially in our region where people didn't know what exists and where it exists and things like that. So a lot of these people, and also this Prashant, Ashley, as well. So a lot of them, like my things all started even with those QA days that we used to. I used to see my name on that website and be very happy that I would have just given a small solution for a very very tiny silly bug, but then
Yes.
I'm so super excited that my name has come there.
Um,
So those kind of QA campaigns and things like that. So I mean, there are so many people who had helped across, and who are still helping through, I would say. Today also, as a family, we are all together, like
exactly.
Pratmesh, you, and a lot of people,
Lot of
right? So we yeah, yeah. So and I've also had like experience with giving being a co-speaker with others from like totally from different state, like Rutuja, Jyotsna, and people like that. So where events connected us, and we probably for the first time met as co-speakers and things like that. So and then we get to understand, okay, what in their community they do. And while I was staying in Bangalore, that's a different community altogether, so with different people and how it worked and things like that. So I mean, yeah, like I can keep telling a lot of names.
So thanks to all the
Yeah,
people, and if you miss out whole Mozilla Tamil Nadu team, you did a fantastic job, and thanks for all the contribution that you guys did. And I think sooner or the later, in couple of events, we are going to meet each of one for sure, because
yeah.
that's the better place, right? And that's how it's getting us root connected. So thanks, Bhuwana, for taking your time, and I hope you enjoyed this episode and
I should
had.
thank you for inviting me, and definitely this was kind of like a life update of each of us.
Exactly.
I would
Exactly.
say, rather than kind of a podcast thing, I would say this definitely a while because we've been it's been a lot of time that we've met as well.
Right.
So yeah, hoping that we'd meet sometime in person, and I think it's all going to be a celebration if we all meet
Of
together
course,
again.
it's going to be, and of course, everyone has something crazy or ways to share for sure. So looking forward to that. So thanks,
Definitely,
Bhuwana.
that's
I'm actually because I don't know a lot of things I didn't know, but glad to see about what everything that you've done is amazing. Thank being a part of this podcast, and there'll be a lot more coming. So stay tuned for that. Thanks, Bhuvana.
Definitely. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity.